Yeah, when you order groceries from DoorDash, sometimes they don't have stuff and you got to tell them what you want to do. So I'm telling them right now. Um, I'm making some food for my family tomorrow. I'm grilling some stuff for me and my boys tomorrow. And I'm ordering something from DoorDash, groceries. I didn't feel like going to the grocery store today. And my boys didn't feel like going either. They say it was their last day of school. Happy for them. Happy for me too. Tired of giving rides. Now I'll give my boys rides no matter what. But I'm tired of giving rides. That's real. So, oh man, the story that never dies. Like this, let me tell you something. There are some stories, right? All right, so there's resurrection, and then there's like reanimation, right? I remember when I was a kid, one of the things that helped me understand the concept of resurrection, like Jesus rose from the dead, was there was this horror film called The Reanimator, I think, back when I was a kid. It's one of them, it's probably like really dumb now, but it was called The Reanimator. And in this movie, somehow this guy got killed and then he came back to life as the reanimator, I think it was. And so I always attributed that. So resurrection kind of reminded me of the reanimator and coming back to life, and not the same thing because the guy wasn't the savior. But anyway, there are some stories that are just reanimated or maybe just never or not going to die. And so today I found myself in a precarious position. Now, Stephen A is a great analyst. I don't always like Stephen A because, I don't agree with him. I'll say that because Stephen A often he bullies his way around. To me, it seems like it at least. It's like he's so used to his opinion being taken seriously that I think sometimes he just says stuff and it's just like, And when you carry a lot of authority, stuff happens. So I don't always agree with Stephen A, or I may not always agree with his presentation of facts. But there are times when I think not only is Stephen A on point, but even the way he's saying it, to some degree, I may agree with. Because when you have to push back against, especially in the society we live in a society where we're sort of aware of everything, right? We think we're entitled to know details just because we're aware of it. Like let me give you an example. So today, there's a story going around about Pastor Tony Evans, all right? And he's stepping down from ministry temporarily for some sin issue that has not been explained. And I've watched, some videos and people and comments of people highlighting it. And there's some people feel like that should be public. I don't think so. I don't think I'm not a member of that man's church. If anything, I don't need to know, and I don't think everything needs to be public just because you're a pastor in a church in a culture where things are publicized. What is that going to do for him? Most people aren't going to pray for him, and in the culture we live in, you're going to judge that person, right? Seems like he initiated by confessing this thing, and he's stepping down. So we live in this kind of place where you have this public heavy push. So sometimes you got to push back. And Stephen A does that. And he does that in this video that we're going to talk about today. But first things first, welcome to CNN. I'm the underdog, Kirk Kennedy. Let's go in. On this channel, this is the verse we apply. We take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. And here's what separates me, I think, from some other people in their channels, is that I believe there's darkness on all sides. The political left, the political right, the north, the south, wherever. It's our job is to expose the deeds of darkness. So if we see something, we say something, to some degree. And so I don't choose a side. And some people have the gall to think that by not choosing a side, but somehow I am trying to be so impartial that I'm a coward, something like that. Let me just say this, because you only know me from these videos. And, let's be clear. Thespians, I could be a thespian. I could be a very good actor, right? I could present to you a certain way that I carry myself, and I could be acting. I could really be a coward on the sneak, but when I talk here, I talk like I'm this champion of truth or whatever. I don't use that terminology, but go with me, please. Stay with me. I'm breaking the fourth wall here. I'm an actor, remember? So there are some people that think that way. Here's the thing. The difference between me and other people is that I'm not afraid to criticize everyone. And not in a self-righteous way. Not like, oh, I'm better. No, but I'm not afraid to apply this verse, call out the deeds of darkness. If I'm a conservative and I'm a Christian, I should be able to call out the deeds of darkness that the conservative side does. If I'm on the left and I'm a liberal, as a Christian, I should be able to call out what the left does, because there's darkness on all sides. When you're unwilling to do that and you only call out the opposing political side that you disapprove of and dislike, but you don't call out anything against your side, I actually think you're the coward. Because I think, to be fair, we have to, listen, I have 3 boys, 16, 15, and about to be 13. I love them. Love them. I loved them before I had them. I love them. But if they're wrong, they're wrong. All right? If they're wrong, they're wrong. I got to be like, you were wrong, son. It's wrong. They love their dad. My kids have permission. I've trained them to tell me I'm wrong. They thought, like, I'll ask them and they'll correct me. And I've trained them since they were little. Do you share a thought? I want you to correct your dad if you need to. A lot of people don't realize that this verse is not just something I put at the beginning of every episode, but a verse I actually stand by, which is why many of you who do like what I say recognize, wow, there's a real balance to your take, and it seems refreshing. I'm not a coward, but anyone who calls me a coward, even if they were friends with me in the past, you clearly don't know me then. You clearly don't know me, because that's the last thing. Unless you're a big rat that runs around in my house. I don't have any rats in my house, by the grace of God. I remember one time I was in Boston and I was by this gas station, and there was like a side street behind this apartment complex. And I saw this weird thing running in my direction, and it looked weird by its movements. It was fast, but and then it turned sideways and went into a gutter. And when it turned sideways, I recognized what it was. It was a rat. But it was bigger than my cat. This thing was like this thing was the Al Capone of rats, man. This thing was like he was it. He was the heavyweight champ of all. I mean, maybe I heard they got big rats in China. Maybe over there he's a little boy. But over in that street, he was the OG. That rat made me stop in my tracks. It made me have respect for the possibility of what they can be. Right? You catch me in that moment, you call I'm a coward. But I'm not a coward by any stretch of terms. I'm a street dude. I've been shot at and shot back, and you carry some of those traits with you. Anybody who thinks I'm a coward because I choose to side with your political position is actually the coward, because you can't critique your own position. And I'll leave it at that. All right, if you are a Christian, you know that tomorrow's not promised, but the day of the Lord is, and that's a future moment. So all believers are living in light of the future. We want to remember the future. Right there, right there, right there. All right. And thank you for the new subscribers. Thank you for joining. There's been some people joining the last couple of days, man. I appreciate it. You got my video numbers going up, all that good stuff. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Continue to like and subscribe to the channel, man. We're on the road to 5K, trying to get to 5K by December 31st. I mean, I got to clear almost 2,000 people by then. If I don't, I got to end the YouTube channel. I got to end it, because if I can't get to 5K, then I'm useless. No one, with nobody. No, I'm kidding, but I want to get to 5K if I can. All right, I appreciate that. All right. I don't usually agree with Stephen A. No, that's not true. I don't usually like the way Stephen A makes his particular points. And that's just, it is what it is. It's preference. Sometimes I think it's hilarious. Sometimes it's not. I don't know. But in this particular instance, I was watching this clip on SportsCenter, and it centered around, once again, the story that never dies, the Caitlin Clark fiasco. Now, I've made videos about it. In fact, my last video on Caitlin Clark is actually doing really good. I'm surprised, because I guess she's just the talk of the town, and any video that has Caitlin Clark in it, people want to know about. All right. especially from a believer's perspective. I don't know how many people are believers talking about Caitlin Clark, but she's a phenomenal basketball player, fun to watch. There's a lot of racial overtones to why she is what she is. And I think it's, and I get it. We live in the culture where, and it's not even about being woke. It's funny how people reduce everything to being woke or being white supremacy. Those are modern categories, right? But just the reality is there's a history between white and black people that is part of the DNA of America. It just is what it is, whether you like it or not. Part of the DNA of America is the struggle between black and white people. And so when there's a white person who enters into a black space or a black person, there's always going to be that logic. Whenever a white cop kills a black man, people are going to say something. People don't care when a white cop kills a white kid. You know why? Because there's no history. Now, if you go to ethnicity, if he was German and the person was Jewish, then you have a problem. There has to be some kind of historical intrinsic connection, an infamous connection, and that will get people's attention. People don't care about black on black crime. Why? Because you're black. But when it's white on black, there's a history there. We need to pay attention. That's just the reality, right? So Caitlin Clark stuff, a lot of people say, no, because she's white and all that. At the end of the day, even if she were white, there's no black woman that I'm aware of popping threes from the logo. I mean, this girl she be leaning sideways and hit a three. Like, you just don't see that. Even NBA players aren't shooting that deep and doing that. She's like falling, like going in the opposite direction, will hit a three. That's why people watch her. She's got a game coming on in a few minutes, and I will be tuned in. I enjoy watching her play. In fact, she played in my city against the Washington Mystics Friday night, all right? The NBA Finals was the day before, had 19,000 people in the stands, and they had to move the game because there were over 20,000 people to watch Caitlin Clark play. Phenom, all right? It's just a reality, whether you like her or not. I think, and I get it. If I'm a basketball player who's been playing for a while, and I've been desperate, wishing that I could play in front of large capacity crowds, and then this little girl comes from Iowa who was a phenom, and keep in mind, Caitlin Clark broke all scoring records for men and women in the NCAA. She's not getting this attention because she's white. She's getting this attention because she's a dog, and D-A-W-G, not facial looking, but just her demeanor. She's like a Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan-like player. And that doesn't mean she drops those numbers every game, but she's a baller. She broke the NCAA. She's earned this attention. I don't care who you are. She's earned this attention, all right? So lately, the news story is that she was left off the Olympic basketball team, the women's Olympic basketball team. Now, they have won 7 gold medals in a row. This is their 8th gold medal. Caitlin Clark was left off the team, and everybody, obviously now including myself, has something to say about it. So in a discussion with Shannon Sharp, Shanae Agunwike, I think, and then Andrea, I forgot her last name. Audrea, I forgot. I'm sorry. They were having a discussion, and Stephen A weighs in after the other 3 people do. And what he says, I thought, was spot on. So we're going to watch this clip, and hopefully ESPN won't try to flunk me. All right? Here we go. Watch this with me. I thought what he said about Caitlin Clark. So he's responding after the other 3 panelists shared their thoughts. This is Stephen A's thoughts about Caitlin Clark. And here's what he says. And I thought I agree with him, and even some of the tone in which he pushed back. Because I think the conversation, there's a time and a place for a race conversation. But the problem is it's been so diluted because if you were on the left for the last 15 years, everything was race about white supremacy. And if you're on the right, nothing is racial at all. You're making this up. And the truth is always somewhere in between. I've heard it say the truth is at the end of a bottomless pit. There's no way everything is not about race, but there's no way nothing is, right? And it's all, once you follow the logic of all these people it's all the same arguments. It's just, I'm different than them. One day I'm going to do an episode and show you, this is what these people said, it's the same idol, different altar. Let's be clear. Same idol, different altar. Let me explain what I mean by that, because some people don't know what I mean by that. Idolatry, if you look in the Bible, let me get back. Let me zoom back in real quick. Look at me. Look at me. You know in Exodus 32, right? This is what people think idolatry is. The average person will tell you this about idolatry, that idolatry is worshiping something else, right? Fear of man. You worship something more than God, right? And that's true. But what I think a lot of people get wrong is the thing that you're actually worshiping more than God. What is it that you were? And so we typically would say, oh, it's the thing, whatever you desire, right? Whatever you're hoping for, that's what you're worshiping more than God. It's that thing. Okay. So then what do you worship more than God? What could other things be, right? Well, if I'm worshiping, if I want people's approval, I'm craving their approval. If I want this, okay, cool. I get that. Here's the problem with that though. When you get to Exodus, and I'm trying to play it off and pull this up on my screen, and it's not working, so I'll just explain it. When you get to Exodus, right? Exodus 32, the golden calf story, is the greatest story of idolatry in the Bible, right? Everyone knows this story. I want you to listen closely. I should do a They Lied to Us video about this, but I'm going to give y'all some game right now. And keep in mind, I have a They Lied to Us about the Bible video coming up probably tomorrow, all right? If I do it tonight, if Caitlin Clark wasn't playing. All right, listen to this. You guys know Exodus 32. Let me give you some game real quick before we go to this video. I got to hurry because Caitlin Clark can play in about 30 minutes. All right, look. Here's what the golden calf story is. If you're a believer, you know this story. Listen to what it says. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said to him, "Up, make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." So Aaron said to them, "Take off the rings of gold that are in your ears, the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, these are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. All right. Here's the thing that people miss. Listen to what they said to Aaron. "Up, make us gods who shall go before us." All right. If idolatry is simply about worshiping something else, other things than God, which it is on one level, why didn't they say, "Hey, make us gods"? They said, "Aaron, make us gods." Now they said plural because they were coming from Egypt, and Egypt had multitude of gods. They had multiple gods there. They were a plurality, right? So they weren't monotheist, right? They were not monotheist. They didn't think of one God the way we think of one God, monotheist, right? They weren't. So he said, "Make us gods who shall go before us." That's the phrase people miss. Make us gods who shall go before us. Let me tell you why they're saying that. If you go back in Exodus, God is telling Moses, "I shall go before you," right? I'm going to go before you. When I go before you means I'm going to lead you out. I'm going to take you out. So I'm going to be a cloud by day and a pillar of fire at night. And that's how Israel followed Moses to the Red Sea and then through the Red Sea because God went before them. I'm going to go before them. So what they're saying is, hey, make us gods who will do something for us and we'll worship them, right? We'll worship them. They're not saying make us gods to worship. They said, "Up, make us gods who shall go before us," who did the same thing that the God that was with Moses did. We want gods that will do something for us because we have no idea where Moses is at. This is what they're saying to Moses. Make us gods who will go do something for us because we don't know where he is. We don't even know if he's coming back. This dude's been gone. He did all that work, led us through the Red Sea, but now he's going to disappear up the mountain, just leave us here. Common sense. But if we were there, we'd probably think the same thing. It's new, it's frightening, all of this stuff, right? They say, make us gods that will go out before us. Here's what they're saying. Make us something to do something for us, and then we'll worship. So think about what I did. Now remember, this is the chief story of idolatry in the Bible. This is the story that everyone goes back to get their definition of idolatry. But many people, from my limited perspective, and I'm not saying it because I'm that dude, this is just what I think it is, and I don't hear many people say this. Many people think idolatry is worshiping someone else or whatever. There's a bunch of idols that you have. From this passage, idolatry means there's a bunch of altars. And let me tell you why. They're not idols that you worship. They're altars that you want to worship you. Let me tell you why. Because they said, "Up, make us gods who will go before us." In other words, make us gods that will do something for us, protect us, provide for us, and we'll worship them. So fundamentally, they didn't say make us gods to worship. Make gods that will get our back and then we'll worship them. So do something for us. So in other words, we're not going to worship anything that doesn't do something for us. So the thing that we're actually worshiping, and the only way we'll worship is if we benefit from it. If we benefit from gods that will go out before us, we'll worship them. Make us a God that will do that. That's what they're saying. So what really is idolatry then? If I worship something so that I get something from it, then what's actually happening right now? What's really happening? Make us gods who will go out before us like Yahweh did, and we'll worship him. We'll worship. But they didn't say make us gods. He has to do what this God did. Provide for us, take us out, do the things for us. They were thinking about self first. They weren't wanting a God to worship. They were wanting a God to do something for them. Okay? So idolatry, biblically speaking, fundamentally first, is self-worship. It's I only do things because I benefit from them. Now let's tease this out a little bit. This isn't what I'm supposed to be talking about, but I just want to make the point so you understand what I'm saying. Because I said same idol, different altar. And it sounds clever, but I want to make sure you understand I really mean it when I say it. I think the problem is we think of idolatry as we're worshiping a bunch of idols. But idolatry is really, we want a bunch of altars for things to worship us, things to benefit us, things to do things for us. We're always the idol. You know why Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself? Because we fundamentally love ourselves. I don't know what Oprah's talking about. You got to forgive yourself and love yourself. The problem is we love ourselves all the time. That's why we're never commanded in the Bible to love ourselves or forgive ourselves, because we forgive and love ourselves a lot. Right? What these people are saying is make us gods that will do things for us that we worship. So if I worship it, I only worship it so that I can benefit from it. That's what they're saying. So think about it. Let's put this in real time. Let's just say, like, you have an idol of someone's approval, right? Let's say there's someone's approval. I'm a pastor. Sometimes people want my approval. So they say, you got a fear of man of Pastor Kurt. You want his approval. You're worshiping him more than God. Are you really worshiping me? Well, what do you get with my approval? Like, why do you want my approval? Like, why do you have an idol of this? What does this idol give to you? What do you want from what does this idol do? It just exists? No. You want the idol to do something. So if you want my approval, then what does my approval do to you? It makes you feel special. It makes you feel something. You don't worship something. You don't have an idol of something that doesn't make you feel good, or that you don't perceive it to be. That's why you've never heard someone say to you, hey man, I want to confess I have an idol of getting a root canal. I just have an idol of it. I worship. You're probably laughing right now as you watch this, because you'll never hear anybody say, if you do, actually I can't say never. People are launched out right now. It's a wild time to be alive. But for the most part, most people don't be like, man, I got an idol of going to the dentist and getting my teeth worked or getting drilled in. No, because most people don't benefit. They don't feel like they benefit from that. You only have an idol of something that you think will give it back to you. You don't worship things. That's why when you have a crush on a person, whether it's a celebrity or something, it eventually goes away, because at some point, what you're getting from that is the fantasy of what you think that person will do or be. But when it doesn't happen, eventually it fades away, because ultimately idolatry is about self-worship. So it's a bunch of altars. I'll worship you if you worship me back, if you do something that I want you to do, right? And this is why our relationship with God sometimes can be affected, because we'll worship God if he does this. That's why there's a lot of these passages that talk about your blessing, your breakthrough, your purpose. God's going to give you this, but it creates a dynamic between you and God that shouldn't be there. Shouldn't be there. I wasted a lot of time talking about idolatry because we're supposed to be talking about Stephen A. But I wanted you to understand that concept about idolatry. All right. Man, I'm tripping. I just like talking to y'all. All right, let's watch this real quick. So back to off idolatry, same idol, different altar. It's the same idol, different altar. All right, let's watch it. We're not going to watch the whole clip, but listen to what Stephen A. says here. And I even actually agree with how he says it. To some degree. Sometimes he be wilding, but I agree with him. Here we go.
None of what Janae and Andrea said was inaccurate. And I'm going to say something to you that I have said on many, many occasions. It's not that you're wrong. It's that we don't care. Everything y'all said does not matter for this particular instance. We don't want to hear anything about Team USA. We know they won 7 straight goals. Put Andrea and Shanae up on this screen. I want to look at them this whole segment when I'm talking to them. You just highlighted 7 straight gold medals. Oh my God, we're really worried that they're not going to get an 8th. Oh, we really worried. I mean, we got to make sure that spots 1 through 12, every single spot that is picked. I mean, it's got to be, because it's pivotal, Shannon. I don't know if you noticed, Shannon, it's pivotal. I mean, they won 7 straight. They might not get 8. They might not get 8. Stop it. You know good and damn well, with or without Caitlin Clark, they're going to probably win the gold again. That's not what this conversation is about. This is about what I will personally label the idiocy of Team USA women's basketball. How dare you make this decision? It's stupid. And I'm going to tell you why it's stupid. I want all the ladies on this squad to know every single one of y'all are deserving of it. Caitlin Clark does not deserve a spot ahead of any of the players on this roster, okay? If we're talking just basketball, you know we're not.
All right, so this is where I don't agree that the WNBA is about idiocy, right? I try to be more sensitive to that, but I understand what he's saying. But this is the point, what he's saying right here. He says, we're not talking about winning a gold medal for real. Like Stephen A is saying, USA has won 7 gold medals. So either we're that arrogant that we just, oh my gosh, we have to win a gold. Or he's like, look, that's not a problem for these ladies. They've already proven they can win gold medals. Women's basketball, while I'm sure it's growing and stuff, is amazing. But Stephen, that's not his point. And let me give you context real quick. Remember what country we live in. We are a country that is driven by what we call free market Western capitalism, Western free market capitalism, right? We're a country that its economic system and most of the majority of our institutions are designed to make money, make capital, and to be able to have nothing stop us from making capital, to be able to double down on our ability to make capital so that our money gets into society. This is why you have this idea, which there's some degree there's truth in it, but this idea has given credence to dumb political ideas like trickle-down economics, right? Where you don't tax the rich, the 1%, let them not really pay taxes so that their money they can invest back into the economy and that will trickle down to the rest of us and so forth and so forth. I can show you a 55-year study that proves that trickle-down economics is not true. That by not taxing the rich, and this isn't a political, I'm just giving you the reality. By not taxing them, it doesn't make the country, their money doesn't flow to the country. No, it makes them more rich, and the rest of us who are paying taxes have less. And we saw that a ton through COVID, where the top 1% made like $1 trillion or something dollars, and everyone else didn't make any money, right? So this idea of capitalism we're after drives the nation, and the women that Stephen A is about to highlight, they are complaining about not having the capital that they desire, and he's getting ready to explain why this decision to not have Caitlin Clark is exposing the lunacy, or what he said, idiocy, whatever, of that decision. Here we go.
You know we're not. Let's harken back to the Dream Team in 1992. Remember when Christian Laettner was on that squad? Forget the other pro play. Forget the pro players. Forget the pro players. That's a given. First time NBA players were allowed to participate. Don't put that damn screen up when I'm talking right now. I want to see Shanae and Andrea, okay? The point is this. Those rosters, right? Those players were on there. Do you know that Christian Laettner also was chosen ahead of Shaquille O'Neal and Alonzo Mourning? You know why? He was a 2-time national champion. He was a Wooden Award winner. And he was white. And he had his own cachet. He brought it to the table. He was a big-time collegiate player who was white and busting people's you-know-what. They couldn't miss, and they didn't need him. You had Jordan, you had Magic, you had everybody, and you still picked that dude. Why? It wasn't because of basketball, even though he had the basketball credentials. It was because of something else, and they didn't need the pub. But the WNBA does. You got a max salary at $250,000. You had attendance, although it was trending in the right direction, certainly wasn't where you wanted it to be. And as Shannon pointed out just the other day, you got a team in the Indiana Fever with their struggling selves, struggling to win a damn game and be relevant. No team in the WNBA was worse other than the winless Washington Mystics, okay? And they went from 4,000 in attendance to 17,000. This girl is box office. I said a rising tide lifts all boats. What you do, especially if you're Team USA and you're trying to be globalized, it is an opportunity to globalize the WNBA brand. So people like Brittany Griner, you know, God bless her soul, and others don't have to go to Russia in the off season to play additional basketball to get extra income. They could stay right here if the sport elevates its popularity and you ladies start getting what you richly deserve. I'll even get a bit personal to Chinea Gumake and Andrea Carter.
All right, so a lot of what Stephen A., he's made his point, essentially, and he's going to go in a direction that I don't think is necessary for us to explore, all right? But the point is this. The WNBA has been complaining about not having the income. They just got charter flights this year, right? All these things are happening. It's growing. You want the brand to grow. The Olympics are a great way for the brand to grow internationally because the Olympics are about country competing with country. His point is, how do you leave off the most popular basketball player in the world, female basketball player in the world? How do you leave it? And he made a point I think is important to realize. The Indiana Fever were 2-9 when they played the Mystics, who were 0-10 or 0-9. So you got two of the worst teams in the league. They have a sellout stadium of 20,000. Sellout stadium, 20,000. I've never watched a game of the two worst teams in the league. Who cares? But because Caitlin Clark is on that team and she's balling, he said she's box office. That's why. He's saying, look, you should care about the overall brand of the WNBA. Stop complaining about not having enough money when you have a person who is drawing attention everywhere. You don't think they want to see her play in other countries when they're hearing about this woman in America? And you don't put her on the U.S. Olympic team? And the reason why you don't is because of fear of, man, because you're afraid that she doesn't get playing time. Her fans won't understand why. It'll mess up. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I agree with Stephen A. He says some other stuff I agree with, but I don't want to watch all the way to the end. Here's the reality. All the talk about trying to win the gold medal and making sure they have the right people, I just think you ain't got to lie, Craig. You ain't got to lie. I think people think they really believe that. But the reality is the women have won gold 7 years in a row. There is an unusual, this is not just rookie hazing. This is what's really going on. I've said this in my last video, so I'm not going to repeat everything I said. You call a race war if you want. You want to call everything race, do it to your own leisure. But the color that's the most dominant in the Caitlin Clark, and in actually many situations, is the color green. What will make Capitol? I live not too far from the Washington Capitol. This is what we care about, Capitol. Caitlin Clark is Capitol. It's Capitol. She makes Capitol. The point, though, is that there's a lot of hatred towards her, jealousy, hatred in the slang sense, not literal hatred. And I get it. There are women who have balled and who have set this league, women's basketball, in this place. You want the notoriety. Everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to be seen and heard. You know what I loved about American Idol? I haven't watched it in a couple years, but what I loved the most about American Idol was not like the final contestants. The best part about American Idol to me was always the first 2 weeks, because that's when you're going to see, sometimes they'll show you someone's story, and that's how they would get you. Because normally when they show you a story, that person can sing and then they make it. So by the time you hear them sing, you're actually cheering for them because they walked you through their town, you met their grandmother, you met all these, and you connected to the thing, you're connected to the story, right? But then they would show you somebody's story and that person can't sing a lick. So we'd watch all these people get up there, and I don't know who lied to them. Somebody lied to them and said you can sing and should audition, and they went up there and were like, I want to go. And it sounded good in the shower, but to the judges, Randy, it's a no for me, dog. Simon would be like, what? Who in the world told you that you could even make a sound, let alone sing? I mean, it was hilarious. I loved it. But what it showed was people want to be seen and want to be heard. There's an insatiable desire for attention and want to be seen and those first 2 weeks of American Idol accomplished that. People want to be seen and heard. These women have been laboring for years and they want to be recognized for their efforts. And now you're going to say this little white girl who hasn't played that many NBA, who's on the worst team in the league, why is she getting on a little lot? Why is she getting shoe deals? Why is she getting this? Because somebody has to. They finally feel like this is a cash cow. They're using Caitlin Clark. Keep in mind. Don't get it twisted. Nike doesn't love Caitlin Clark. The fans love Caitlin Clark. The little girls who want, the corporations don't love people. They love what income they can benefit from the people, right? There's exploitation all over the place. I'm going to make you some money. You're going to make me more money than I'm making you because that's what I'm in business for. These girls are upset. And that's the reality. They're mad at Caitlin Clark, and that's the reality. They don't want her on the team. So let me give you, this is why I'm glad she's not on the Olympic team. And I have a bunch of reasons, but because of time, I'm only going to give two. 2 reasons why. 1, favoritism. And this goes 2 ways for me. 1, favoritism on the team. I think if Caitlin Clark were on that team, she would get shunned a lot by those women. I think they would. They say women say women are catty for a reason. Women are catty. They're petty in what they mean. They're petty, jealous when they say they're catty. I know women who are like, I just like being friends with males more because other women are just they just talk like that. There's women say this about themselves. Women are catty. I think that they would snuff her out. They wouldn't let her feel accepted, which then would affect her ability to play, and it could damage her connection to, like, Caitlin Clark didn't ask for this. I mean, she may be aggressive, she may talk a little trash, but everybody does that. But she didn't ask to be the chosen one. She doesn't go in interviews and be like, yeah, I don't know what they're complaining about, because if it wasn't for me, they ain't start flying flights till me. I sell out every stadium I play in. These girls that are complaining about me, they just played in front of 3,000 people. I don't know what it's like to play in front of less than 15,000. She's not talking like that. She's not talking like that at all. She's like, no, it's good for the women's sport and blah, 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 blah. Favoritism. I think they would show favoritism towards each other, and I think they could shun her. And that just wouldn't be a good look. Then it would make America look dumb in the world stage, how petty that we are. But then there's favoritism on the other side. The other reason why I'm glad she's not on the team, because there's a favoritism coming from the masses of people who love her stardom. I'm glad they're not doing it, because in our culture, there's a book I found out about years ago called Join the Club. And the book is basically about positive peer pressure. But if you're a believer like me, you know that peer pressure can be good, but largely it's bad. It leads to making bad decisions because you're worried about what people think of you, right? You're worried about, and again, it goes back to idolatry. When I want your approval, when I fear a man, I'm worried about what you'll think. I'm willing to do things to get that approval that may compromise what God says or what I really believe, my core values. I want your approval. I want you to worship me, so I'm going to worship you by doing, and that's what happens. This is what idolatry is. It's a symbiotic, supposedly symbiotic transaction between what I worship to worship me back. And you would be shocked how many our relationships with God are based on an idolatrous. Like, it's possible for you to have an idol of God, of the Bible, an idol of Jesus. Oh, that's a different ballgame. That's a topic we don't want to hit tonight. What do you mean? How can you have it? Oh yeah, you can. I think people can have an idol of the Bible and certain things, but in the way that I'm defining, right? But that's a different video. So I think there's a favoritism. I think there's a cultural backlash that is dangerous. That if we demand that you do this against your core conviction. Even if the Olympics core conviction is wrong, it's their conviction to not put her on the team. If they cave in, it's another organization, and it sets in motion this caving in, which will eventually lead to, guess who? The church. There's pressure. Cave in. Do what we say. I just heard about this morning, that there is a big Christian institution, very popular, they didn't say the name was, who are being asked or being forced to or pressure to include an AI version of the Bible, which is basically people have updated their thoughts and realities about translation of the Bible, which says things the Bible doesn't say. And they read an excerpt of it and saying this major Christian institution is getting pressure to accept this version of the Bible that is coming from not even people who probably believe in Jesus. There's this pressure. So I'm glad that she didn't make the team. Well, I hope she doesn't, because they could fall in. But there's a favoritism. There's a cultural favoritism that we have to be aware of. This is why Jesus said, enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. Whenever everyone thinks this is a good thing, you know it's not. It's cultural discernment, unless it's oxygen, right? Oxygen is good, I would agree. But whenever everyone thinks this is a good thing, you know that's the broad road. That's the broad road. That's the broad road. The majority of people historically, in the history of humankind, do not desire to worship God. That's broad road. We're going this way. We're going this way. I think there's a favoritism, cultural favoritism, that I'm glad they're not giving into by not putting her on the team. The second and final was what she said to her coach. When she found out that she wasn't making the team, she said to her coach, they just woke a monster. They just woke the sleeping giant. I love it, because I think Caitlin Clark, to use Stephen A's language, she's box office. Yeah, not every game is good because she's learning. Teams are double teaming her, trapping her in ways that no one else is experiencing. Oh, yeah, but what about such and such? Yeah, she's got the fastest in the league. She's broke Sue Bird's record, the fastest to 200 points and this many assists and so forth. And she had one game with 3 points and another game with 7. So think about that for a second. She's gotten to 200 points and however many steals and assists and all that, faster than any player in the WNBA. And one of her games, she only had 3 points. In one of her games, she had 7 points. So that's 10 points in 2 games. So she's scoring enough in these other games. She's had a couple 30-point games. She's going to drop. One dude said she's going to drop a 50 burger. I thought it was a funny term, 50 burger. I just think she's going to ball. Now, because it got out that she said that, teams are going to double down because no one wants to have Caitlin Clark drop 40 on them. But she's going to get there. She's going to get there. Unless you really hurt her, she's going to get there. So I'm glad. I'm glad they woke. I want to see her play. I'm looking forward. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to log off in a second so I can go watch her play. I hope she drops. She's playing Connecticut. I think Connecticut is still undefeated. They're balling. They played Connecticut. This is their third time playing them. I hope third time is the charm. I want to see her ball out. I want to see it happen. I want to see it. So I don't always agree with Stephen A. or how he says it, but today I think Stephen A. was right on point. This is not about, don't use this language like they're trying to preserve the integrity. These women are going to probably win that whether Caitlin Clark's on the team or not. You are shooting yourself in the foot by not having the most polarizing and popular player in women's sports right now on your team representing you in the nation. It's dumb. It's dumb. But what do I know? I'm a dude who couldn't guard Caitlin Clark. All right, let's go to the tape. Let's go to the tape. My 2-year-old loves you. Oh, thank you, bro. Appreciate it. Tell your 2-year-old I said what's up. That's it. CNN. There we go. Fat Russian. That's my dude. I like that name, baby. Curtis Coward. Put him up. They don't believe that, man. They don't believe that, bro. What it is, let me tell you what it is, man. When people call you a coward, it's usually they're offended. This is what it really means. When they call you a coward, they know that your perspective has value. And because you don't align with theirs, they're offended. A lot of this stuff is just hurt, man. A lot of stuff is just people are just. Remember when you were a kid and you liked a girl, you would like tease her. You might even push her a little bit. Not like trying to, but you just didn't know how to handle your emotions. You didn't realize you didn't know how to express, I like you. I want you to like me. You just got mad at her, made fun of her. But in reality, you thought about her all the time. You knew she was of value. These people ain't really calling me no coward. They believe I have a perspective that is beneficial, that's helpful, because I actually do think through things. And then they just want me to be on their team, and I'm just not. And so calling me a coward is supposed to get a rise out of me, and it doesn't, because that's the last thing I am. There's no one in this world that knows me that would call me, that thinks I'm a coward. Not one. If you heard this album, if you haven't heard this, go get this album. This is my album on iTunes, all right? This is the album right here. It's called, I'm warning you, do not listen to this album. There's a song on this album called Fearless, all right? It's called Fearless. You don't even got to stream the album. Just go find this on whatever streaming service you are. Listen to the song Fearless. You'll hear my mom talk about me. They were honoring me at my church, and my mom said some stuff about me, and she'll tell you from her perspective how I've been. These people know I'm not a coward, but they got to say that because they want to get a rise out of me, and it just ain't going to work. As always, Will Smith. If you were the real Will Smith, I'd be like, bro, can I get like a little bit more, man? You Will Smith, bro. You getting $20 million to move me. Hey, brother, but no, seriously, I appreciate you, man. I don't know if you got a family or all that, but brother, every video I do, you give me a super chat, and you have no idea what that mean. Because not that I don't live and die by those, but it's a respect thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm an OG. I'm from the old school. It's a respect, and I respect that. I respect that you respect. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you, man. All right, Future. Kurt is like the writers of South Park. Nobody, Future. You know me. You've been watching me too long. You know, and that's the problem. Like I'll hit anybody, man. And it's not even about trying to be arrogant. I'm not afraid. Nah, it's just that I'm trying to take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. I just think there's darkness everywhere. So I will never be on your team. You call me a coward till the sun comes up. But the reason why I say these statements about being a coward, let me tell you why. Because these people might watch the video and try to like subliminally act like no, I won't mention your name because it's not worth it. But the reason why I push back on the coward, let me tell you the main reason why I push back against when I hear people say that. And it's not because, I'm emotional, I'm in my feelings. Let me tell you why. Because in Revelation 21 verse 8, here, listen to what it says right here. This is actually scripture. Revelation 21 verse 8 says this. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liar, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Now, I'm sure that these people, I don't even think these people are theologically astute enough to realize that when you call someone a coward that's a Christian, that you're basically telling them that they're going to hell. Because God listed out of all of the qualities in Revelation 21:8, cowardly was first, but as for the cowardly. So when you tell me I'm being cowardly, you're telling me that I'm going to hell when I die because God put that first in Revelation 21:8. That's why it's important for me to make sure you know. I don't know if you know what you're saying, but you don't really believe that. Because anybody that knows me knows I'm not an internet gangster. I promise you. For those of you who know me, I am the same dude on this stream, in the pulpit, in my home. My kids, the one thing they will not say is that my dad was a hypocrite. He preached one thing on Sunday but didn't do it at home. I got flaws. I'm a flawed man, but I'm not faking. I'm not a fake man. I'm a flawed man, but I'm not a fake man. What you see is what you get. So these people, I think they're cowards. Because what you're really saying is you want me to be on your team, and I'm just not. Kurt just be preaching. I try to, brother. It's all about the money, 100%. You ain't talking about me because I ain't getting that. There's an element of jealousy among the women, but the discussion around Clark is toxic because some of her fans are right. I agree with that. Totally agree with that. I'm with you. I'm with you. Nobody wants to play with that amount of noise. It's the same reason most superstars of the WNBA didn't want to play with LeBron. There is that. There's a lot of toxicity. A lot of her fans are racist. That's 100%. There's a YouTube channel that I just stopped watching because I was like, this guy is just clearly he's just a racist. And she is the great white hope to him. But there's so many good white players. Like, she ain't no great white hope. The WNBA, man, they got some dope. I'm talking about like ridiculous white women that play that sport. It ain't got nothing to do with her bit, man. That ain't no all black sport that she's entering into. There are white girls that dominate that sport. What you gonna say to Kelsey Plum, the point guard of the two-time champion Las Vegas? What you gonna say to Sabrina Ionescu, who has the 3-point record, who was shooting against Steph Curry and beat him in a 3-point contest last in the NBA All-Star weekend? These girls ball. Stewie, what they call Stewie, she balls. Diana Taurasi ain't black. Some of the best players in the NBA, WNBA are white. So this ain't even, these people just be tripping, man. Their shoelaces are a little too big. All right, last one, and I'm out of here. I'm about to, not every, but trying to inspire. I want your content. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that, friend. Thank you for that, bro. Thank you, bro. All right, I'm out of here. The game has started. Y'all messing with me. The game has started. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I will see y'all next video. Got a crazy video coming up soon. See y'all when I see y'all. Grace and peace.